Today we are going to talk about how some irresponsible news media channels and social media tools they are creating a lot of confusion, spreading hate, and sharing false information. They are dividing people, creating fear, and giving India a negative image in the international community. This becomes even more dangerous during times of crisis, especially during situations like the Indo-Pak stand-up. At such sensitive moments, instead of supporting peace and national unity, these media channels and online trolls they often spread fake news, emotional drama, and jingoism. This not only misguides the public, but also it affects India's global reputation and diplomatic relations. We will look at how these actions they are harming our society and our nation and what we can do together to stop this damage. It's time we should understand the power of truth, unity, and responsible communication to build a stronger and more respected nation. Let's begin this important conversation with open minds, and the courage to stand up for what is right. It's all began on April 22nd, 2025, with a horrific terrorist attack in the peaceful and scenic town of Pahalgam, located in Jammu and Kashmir. 26 innocent lives they were lost. Most of them they were tourists who had come to enjoy the beauty of our land, but instead they met with tragedy. The pain of their families, it became the pain of an entire nation. This brutal act of terror it pushed India and Pakistan to nuclear armed neighbors dangerously close to the edge of war. India responded with strength. India responded with precision through Operation Sindhu. It's a bold military operation involving missile strikes on alleged terrorist bases in Pakistan and Pakistan administered Kashmir. The operation was swift, determined, and deeply symbolic. A message that India will not tolerate violence against its people. But the crisis was not limited to the battlefield. It quickly became a war of words, war of narratives, and a global diplomacy. The Indian media played a powerful role, sometimes informing, sometimes misguiding. It's misguiding with propaganda, emotional appeals, and even false reports. While some voices brought the truth, others added confusion, fueling fear and anger. In the background of all this, diplomacy was tested. Many believe India stumbled in some areas, failing to rally enough international support or communicate its position with clarity. At the same time, world powers watched us closely. The United States under President Donald Trump is stepping in to help mediate and calm the storm before it turned into a full-scale war. It is not just about politics or war. It is about what we can learn from these moments of crisis and individuals as citizens and as nation. It is about understanding truth, responsibility, and the power of unity. Above all, it is about how we must stay strong, stay informed, and stay united even when the world seems to be on the edge. Now, let us turn our focus to a powerful force that shapes our thoughts, our emotions, and even our national direction. That is the media. In times of conflict like the Indian-Pakistan stand-up of May 2025, the media holds immense power. It can guide a nation with truth or mislead it with lies. Sadly, during this crisis, much of the Indian media choose the latter. Instead of presenting balanced and responsible journalism, many media outlets, they became loudspeakers of hyper-nationalism. Television screens, they flashed with dramatic headlines like India crushes the enemy and India strikes Pakistan hard. Some even broadcast images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with a Captain America style shape. It turned a real and serious conflict into a superhero movie. Very bad. Such reporting might make people feel proud or excited, but it does not inform, it inflames. It does not encourage unity, it encourages division. As international observers noted that many Indian media houses, they aligned themselves closely with government narratives, acting more like public relations, acting more like public relation offices than watchdogs of democracy. They go instead of asking hard questions, it became one of cheering from the sidelines. And then came the dangerous wave of misinformation. According to the Washington Post, Indian media made several shocking and false claims that India had damaged Pakistan's Karachi airport, captured Islamabad, arrested the Pakistan army chief, and that militants had taken control of Quetta, a city of over 1.6 million people. None of these things ever happened. To make things worse, they used old videos. They used old videos and unrelated footage like a plane crash in Philadelphia and images from the Israel-Gaza conflict and presented them as a proof of India's so-called success. One misleading post alone received over 2 million views on Twitter X, which spread false hope, false pride, and false narrative to millions. The question we must ask is, why was this allowed to happen? The answer is not just carelessness, it is control. The Iranian nation starts fearing poachings more than attacks. We know something is deeply wrong. And then came something even more troubling, the targeting of the truth tellers. Take the case of Himanshi Narwal. Himanshi Narwal, the brave widow of Lieutenant Vinay Narwal, who died in the Pahalgam attack. She made a heartfelt plea asking the nation not to direct its anger toward innocent Muslims or Kashmiris. But instead of receiving support, she was attacked online. She was attacked online by hate-filled trolls who accused her of being anti-national. Her grief was politicized. Her patriotism was questioned. Her humanity was insulted. Her considered Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, one of India's senior diplomats. When he worked towards a ceasefire, he was labeled as a traitor. His personal information was leaked online. His daughter was harassed for studying abroad and helping Rohingya refugees, as if compassion had become a kind in this new version of patriotism. Much of this abuse was fueled by well-followed right-wing accounts like Jaipur Dialogue. It turned the social media into a battlefield of hate. Voices of reason, they were drowned out. Calls for peace were mocked. The idea of unity was replaced with suspicion and aggression. This is not just about the media. This is about our values. This is about our democracy. This is about our future. When truth is replaced by propaganda, when questions are silenced, and when peace is seen as weakness, then the soul of our nation is at risk. True patriotism, it does not mean blind loyalty. It means moral courage. It means defending the constitution. It means protecting every Indian, not just those who agree with the ruling narrative. The present day youngsters, they must learn to recognize propaganda from reality. The youth must stand by those who speak up for peace and justice, even when it is hard. Because real strength is not shown in war cries or manipulated headlines. Real strength is shown in the courage to care, the wisdom to question, and the power to unite, even in times of fear, even in times of chaos. In every society, the media is called the fourth pillar of democracy. A powerful force meant to speak truth to power, to inform the people with clarity, and to protect the spirit of freedom. But what happens when this pillar begins to crack? What happens when the media chooses popularity over responsibility and ratings over reality? That is exactly what we are witnessing during the India-Pakistan standoff in May 2025. In a time of national tension, instead of calming the public, large sections of Indian media, they did the opposite. They amplified unverified claims, encouraged jingoist behavior, and they created an atmosphere of fear and aggression. News channels didn't just report the news, they performed it. Indian television screens, they were filled with dramatic animations of fighter jets, missile strikes, and exploding buildings. These were not mere images from the battlefield, but computer-generated visuals designed to entertain and excite viewers. They gave the false impression that India was in the middle of an all-out war. This kind of sensationalism was not just irresponsible, it was dangerous. It played with the emotions of millions of citizens and misled them about the true scale of the conflict. Why did this happen? Why did the media behave in such a reckless manner? Because in today's world, views and viral content, they often matter more than verified facts. And when the media begins to function like a movie studio instead of a public service, the results can be disastrous, not just for public understanding, but for national security. This pattern of irresponsibility is not new. India's decline in the World Press Freedom Index tells us a bigger story. A decade ago, India was ranked 136th in the world. Today, we have slipped further to 151. That's not just a number. It's a warning. It's a warning that freedom of the press is shrinking and our democracy is being weakened from within. Experts like RajaRao, a respected voice in national security, he has pointed out that this administration has seen an increase in state-driven censorship. News outlets that question the government are often targeted. Independent journalists, they are silenced, and media houses, they are pressured to follow the official line. In such an environment, how can the media truly serve the people? When we allow entertainment to replace ethics in journalism, we lose something precious. Our right to the truth. It is your generation that must rise to change. Youth, the present day youth must demand better. The youth must value facts over drama and truth over convenience. The youth must learn to ask who is telling me this. Why are they showing this? Is this true? Because in any democracy, a well-informed citizen is more powerful than any army. A questioning mind is more dangerous to corruption than any weapon. And in a society that protects its prestige, a society that protects the future. The rise of social media, right-wing trolls in India, it has become a growing concern, particularly for the country's global reputation. These right-wing trolls, they are often associated with a right-wing nationalist group saying the ruling party. They have been increasingly active in spreading hate speech. Spreading misinformation, spreading divisive content across social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp. Their activities have had a damaging effect on India's image globally, especially in terms of its democratic values, social harmony, and its standing in the international community. In 2023, the Washington Post highlighted the scale of this online operation. It revealed that the right wing had created an organized group of about 150,000 social media workers. They were tasked with spreading divisive content. This massive effort to manipulate online discourse has drawn both admiration and condemnation on the global stage. One of the primary ways these trolls damage India's global reputation is by spreading hate speech and by spreading misinformation. They often create and share inflammatory, false, and bigoted material, particularly targeting religious minorities, especially Muslims and Christians. This is not limited to domestic issues. These trolls also interfere in global conflicts. According to one international journal, a student group affiliated with the right wing, they used online trolling to target activists like Gurmeet Kaur, even though she was the daughter of a slain Indian army soldier. This suppression of dissent, as noted in a report from the German Institute for Global and Area Studies in 2019, it has led to increasing self-censorship as journalists and academics. They face personal attacks because they face personal attacks. So the international community views this as undemocratic, which damages India's image as thriving free democracy. The polarized rhetoric promoted by these groups, it has further deepened societal divisions within India. Reports suggest that the right-wing affiliated groups, they actively support or they actively collaborate with trolls. They collaborate with trolls to further their political agenda. BuzzFeed News reported in 2016 that right-wing party had set up abusive social media campaigns, utilizing tools like TechFarm to infiltrate platforms and push favorable narratives. This has led to criticism and fraud with international media and governments. They are questioning whether India's leadership is endorsing or failing to curb these online campaigns, further undermining its claims to uphold democratic values. The legal and social repercussions of these trolling activities, they are also significant. While there have been some attempts to combat online abuse, such as arrests made for making threats, these efforts appear insufficient to address the scale of the problem. Our nation's failure to regulate social media platforms effectively, it has led to criticism from international observers, as companies like X and Facebook, they have not done enough to prevent the spread of harmful content. This failure to control the online environment, it adds to the perception that India is struggling to maintain a healthy and balanced digital space. International reactions to India's social media trolling, this problem have been largely negative. The Washington Post described the right-wing social media strategy as something that has ended both envy and condemnation beyond India's borders. The Atlantic further noted how Indian troops they have contributed to global disinformation campaigns, clogging social media feeds with fake videos in narratives. This has made India appear irresponsible and unreliable in the eyes of international observers, especially in global conflicts where truth and clarity are paramount. The international community's increasing scrutiny of India's social media problem, particularly regarding its far-right alliances, it is likely to continue. Reports from the European New Watchdog in 2019, it highlighted the existence of Indian influence networks pushing fake news, further damaging India's credibility on the global stage. With the rise of these right-wing trolls, India's global reputation is facing significant challenges that it must address if it wishes to maintain its standing as a responsible, democratic, and progressive nation. So, we must take the responsibility. The actions of these trolls, fueled by hatred, disinformation, and divisive rhetoric, they are not just a domestic issues, but have global repercussions. Our nation's ability to control the spread of this harmful content and protect the integrity of its democratic institutions, it will determine how it is viewed by the rest of the world. If left unchecked, these tools they could further tarnish our nation's reputation, making it harder for the country to present itself as a leader in global affairs. In the world of international relations, strength is not measured only by missiles and military operations. True strength is measured by influence, alliances, and diplomacy. The ability to win not just wars, but hearts and minds across the globe. Sadly, during the Indian-Pakistan stand-up in May 2025, we saw not a rise in India's global standing, but we saw a crisis in diplomacy. Where was the world in all this? Did the global community stand firmly with India? The honest answer is not completely. According to the New York Times, the United States, under Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he called for calm and de-escalation rather than offering unconditional support to our nation. This was not just the voice of backing, but of concern. Countries like China and Russia, instead of endorsing India's position, they issued travel advisories and they urged restraint from both sides. These were signs that the world was watching, not siding. Why did this happen? Why didn't India win the full support of the international community? Even after the horrific terrorist attack in Pahalgam that claimed 26 innocent lives, why didn't we get that support on international stage? Because diplomacy. Diplomacy is about perception. When a nation appears to act unilaterally or aggressively, even if it believes it is right, others hesitate to align with it. And in diplomacy, hesitation equals weakness. The clearest example of this failure was seen in the realization of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Instead of condemning the Pahalgam attack, their statement avoided any recognition of cross-border terrorism and they focused instead on Kashmir. India rightly called the statement absurd. But this reaction also revealed something deeper that our nation, despite its growing global ambitions, it remains diplomatically isolated on certain issues. We must also ask, What are the lessons here for us, the people of India? We need to build. We need to build a generation that not only celebrates strength, but also understands the power of diplomacy. A generation that knows how to resolve conflict, not just with force, but with wisdom. A generation that can build bridges, not burn them, that can carry the voice of India, not just through echoes of explosions, but through the strength of its ideas, values, and justice. Leaders never forget. A powerful nation is not one that fights alone. A powerful nation is one that holds trust and stands with in peace and crisis. And that trust can only come when we, as citizens, demand transparency, fairness, and strategic thinking from our leaders, not just in war rooms, but in meeting groups. Not just through shows of might, but through the courage to communicate and the will to unite. In moments of national crisis, the strength of a country is not just measured by the number of missile it launches, but by the maturity of its diplomacy. Maturity of its diplomacy, the clarity of its vision, and the respect it commands on the world stage. Because in the realm of international diplomacy, perception is power. Even when we are morally right, aggressive posturing without effective communication, it can erode global goodwill. Leadership in the modern world is not about shouting louder, but about convincing smarter. This movement must serve as a wake-up call, not just for our political leaders, but for all of us as citizens. We need a generation that understands the value of soft power, the value of the soft power of strategic alliances, soft power of global dialogue. We must cultivate our youth who are not only patriotic but also diplomatically literate, who know that building bridges is just as vital as defending borders. A nation that isolates itself in moments of crisis, it loses not just allies but opportunities to shape the future. So let us rise to help the occasion. Let us push for a leadership that doesn't just act boldly but acts wisely. Let us demand a foreign policy that doesn't just react but strategically responds with foresight, compassion, and strength. Only then, our nation can emerge not just as a powerful nation, but as a respected and responsible global power. Let us not shy away from the truth. Our nation's lack of open international support was not accidental. It was shaped by a mix of political choices, global dynamics, and missed opportunity. And it offers us powerful lessons about how nations earn and lose global trust. Here our nation struggled to present clear, internationally verifiable evidences that directly linked Pakistan to the Mayhem. We must acknowledge the ever-present nuclear shadow. India and Pakistan, they are both nuclear armed nations. The fear of even a limited war spiraling into a nuclear conflict made many countries, including Russia, they hesitate to take sides. Experts warned that the risks of escalation they were too high. And this fear, more than anything, it was the diplomatic support India expected. We witnessed a subtle shift in Russia's posture. A nation that once stood firmly with India in defense and energy, it matters. Should they choose quieter path? Why? Possibly due to its growing dependence on China, its balancing act with Pakistan, or its preoccupation with the Ukraine conflict. But the signal was clear. India can no longer assume unconditional support from any power, not even older. So, what does this tell us? It tells us that in global politics, even the most justified cause needs careful transition. Morality alone does not win support. Credibility, evidence, timing, and alliances, they do. We must learn that emotional reactions, however righteous, they must be paid with strategic diplomacy. This is not a time for despair. It is a time for reflection and reform. If we want India to be a true global power, we must invest not only in military strength, but in diplomatic wisdom. We must train our youngsters not just to defend our borders, but to represent our truth on the global stage confidently, convincingly, and peacefully. Let this movement remind us that the world is not looking for louder voices. It is listening for smarter leaders. Leaders who understand that global respect is not given. It is earned through integrity, transparency, and courage, not just on the battlefield, but across the conference table. As we have seen today, irresponsible news media, and irresponsible social media trolls, they are not just a nuisance. They are a serious threat to our national unity, global image, global diplomacy, and even to our safety, especially in times of crisis like the Indo-Pak. Instead of informing and uniting the people, they often mislead, divide, and create chaos. India is a proud democracy, a land of peace, a land of intelligence, and a land of strength. But our progress will be held back if false narratives, hate speech, and misinformation, they continue to grow unchecked. We must demand truth from our media, respect for each other on social platforms, and responsibility from those who have the power to influence minds. Let us not be silent spectators. Let us be awake citizens. Let us promote peace over provocation, facts over fear, and unity over division. The future of our country depends not only on our leaders, but also on each one of us. Together, let us rise above hatred, build bridges of understanding, and become the voice of a better, stronger nation in the world.